All right, everybody. I am here with Jared Clark from Skipio. He is the president of Skipio, and I am real excited to have him on. Jared and I've been using Skipio for probably 2.5 years now or so. But Jared and I connected. He actually flew out here to Houston last year or last summer. We we went to a baseball game. We didn't watch much of the game. We because we were talking and geeking out the whole time. And we got to know each other, and not only has he become a colleague in the business world and all that stuff, but he's also become a friend. He is a guru when it comes to texting. I'm excited to have him here, not just to talk about Skipio and what it does, but also just to talk about texting and how it can revolutionize the way you can do business as a photographer. So, Jared, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me, and thank you guys for listening to me.
So Jared is coming out of Salt Lake City, Utah, and that's where they're headquartered and everything. And like I said, we've gotten to know each other over time, and I just want to start off with like texting. Like texting, there's so many different ways to text out there. What is the difference between the different kinds of texting services? Because that can be very confusing to a lot of people.
Yes, yes. So text messaging has had an interesting history um, from the days of us, on those flip phones using T9 to, pressing the number multiple times to get the message that you wanted, and then buying a phone plan that had 100 text messages a month, and then going over that phone plan and paying the overages for your messaging. Texting has been a really it's just had an interesting history, but at its core, it's always had this idea of two people communicating with each other. Um, and from the early days all the way till now, it's expanded out of that, and now we see text messaging used for a lot of different things, for delivery notifications, for two-factor authentication, um, marketing, for political campaigns. You see different messaging tools pop up. So I guess as we talk today, I'm going to say text messaging. I also say messaging. A lot of times I use them interchangeably, but if I mean specifically text messaging, that's just text messaging outside of like WhatsApp or um, Facebook Messenger or GroupMe or any of these other messaging tools. Um,
You're
if I
talking
say text
specifically
messaging, I
on a
just mean
phone,
specifically,
like like a telephone
yes,
number or something like that.
yeah. And iMessage is sometimes text messaging, and sometimes it's iMessage. And so again, when I'm talking about specifically text messaging, I'll refer to
SMS.
it as that. But messaging as a whole. But the messaging landscape is really, really unique right now. There's three different types of numbers that can send text messages. You have a normal 10-digit phone number. That's what most people are used to. Your phone number is that. It's a 10-digit phone number in an area code that you choose. And that area code tells you where you are sending the messages from, at least where your number originated. Um, then you have toll-free numbers. I don't know if you guys remember the good old days of call and collect, but a toll-free number is really just that. It's a different set of 10 numbers that, again, those three starting numbers are going to be different than your regular area codes. And then you have short code. And short code can be a little bit confusing because short code can be 5 digits or 4 digits or 6 digits. You can even have 10 digits for short code, but for all intent and purposes, a 5 or 6 digit number is a short code number. And what has happened is that each of those now serve a different purpose inside of this text messaging ecosystem. And I think as consumers, we've been trained to treat them differently because they are meant to be different. Um, I'm obviously biased, but for a small business or a smaller business or a local business, the 10-digit phone number text messaging, that first one we talked about, is going to be the one that's the best for you because you can have a local area code and you can communicate one-on-one. Yes, the communication might be a little bit slower. When I say slower, I mean 100 messages a minute compared to short code, which can send 10,000 messages a minute. But it's going to be the type of messaging that you probably want to be doing. And so, sorry, I jumped right ahead to
Oh, you're
that
good.
short
You're
code.
good. You're
Yeah,
good. This
I'm
is what
just
I wanted
jumping
to go
in.
to because I think there's a misnomer of like what the difference of these types of things are and why I would want to
Yep.
use one or the other. Like you're talking short code can go out to 10,000 people. As a photographer, I'm not going out to 10,000 people very often, and not many
Yep.
people are going to have a need for that. And my understanding the negative of that too is there's not the back and forth. It's just more one way with the 5-digit codes and
Yep.
all that stuff and everything.
Yeah, so back and forth is an option across all of them. But again, we've been trained. I don't know how many of you have subscribed to some large e-commerce. Typically, shortcut is used for e-commerce. Um, and it's meant for blasting. It's meant for pushing information. It's not really designed to have this back and forth conversation. I know that when I receive a short code message, it's not coming from a person. Someone didn't pull out their phone and say, "Hey, I'm
and it,
texting
and it
Jared this."
seems and it seems spammy. Like that's where when you see it, it's like, oh, that's a spam message, and you ignore it. Where like with something like Skipio or a texting where it's a 10-digit number, you're like, oh, that seems like a real phone number or what. I mean, it's a real phone number, and there could be a human behind it in your mental capacity of that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So short code, again, all of these types of messaging have their place. And that's what I love about it. And that's, I think earlier in my career, I was more biased. Again, I still love the 10-digit messaging for a lot of what we do, but I also understand there's so much value in the real value that comes from messaging as a whole is getting to people where they want to be talked to. And I, for one, I don't, I have, I think 5 or 6 different email addresses that I use. One of them has like 15,000 unread emails. Like if someone really wants to get a hold of me, please do not send me an email. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to get to it as fast as I'm going to get to someone texting me. Um, and now if you do want to get a hold of me, even if you call me, there's a good chance that it's going to go to voicemail first. I would rather you text me and let's text back and forth, and we can use that to uh, and maybe I'm just a totally unique, but the data shows that I'm not fully unique in that. Um, Texting is a powerful way to communicate. Messaging is a way that people like to communicate. It's convenient, it's fast, it comes right to my device. I'm not going to let unread messages sit for very long. Um, and so as a business owner, it's a really, really powerful way to get in front of people. And I hope from what we talk about today, I hope that you take something away that's specific to you. But one thing that everyone can take away is even if you're not collecting phone numbers right now in your marketing, in your contact capture, your lead capture, start collecting phone numbers. Even if you don't plan on messaging right now, there's so much value to collecting someone's phone number, almost more so than collecting their email. Um, I don't have 6 phone numbers. Even working at Skipio, I don't have 6 phone numbers. I have 2 phone numbers, but again, I have 6 email addresses.
Right, right, right.
So, but yeah, sorry. Quick
So
quick recap. You've got short code, which is again really really high volume. Doesn't really have this back and forth. Then you have toll free. It's also very high volume. Um, you'll see like financial institutions that use toll-free numbers. Again, it's larger institutions who have larger customer bases who don't have a need to do any sort of multimedia. You can do it in there, but it's not really designed for that. And then you have the regular 10-digit numbers. Excuse me.
bless you.
Excuse me. Can I sneeze on this podcast?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that allowed?
fine. I mean,
Yeah,
hey, it's
okay.
real, man. It's
It's
real
real.
and,
This
and
is live.
live.
Yep. And then yeah, 10-digit phone number, which allows you to do multimedia. Um, it allows for this not only belief but this reality of there is a person on the other side of this number. And that's the other thing. I don't know how often when you pull out your phone, you say, I'm going to text a number. You never say that. You pull out your phone and you're going to text a person.
Right.
And your brain thinks of it in terms of people,
Mhm.
and that's how we are. We're wired as humans. We want to connect with people, and text messaging is an incredible way to connect with people. there's a lot of real things that happen over text messaging. Um, and for a business, you can make real and lasting connections using text messaging.
No, I agree. I mean, obviously, I'm using texting in my business, and that's what brought you here today. But like,
Yep.
if I'm going to do business texting and stuff like that, I know the answer to this, and I feel like it's kind of straightforward. But out of those different ones that you want to do as a photographer, what would I want to be using out of those different options, and what's the best option?
Yep, for sure you're going to want to be using a 10-digit local number.
And
And you're
that's
probably already doing that with your own phone number if you don't have a tool like Skipio. You're probably already messaging people from your own phone number. It adds legitimacy. It adds, again, connection. It adds authenticity to who you are. Because as a photographer, so much of your business, and I don't know if you want to talk about this on here today, but I've
yeah.
learned this from you. And so I'm kind of pushing this back on
No,
you.
you're good. You're good.
It's not just about the product that they hang on their wall or that it's not just about that. It's about the experience that you create from the moment they become a lead,
Right.
from the moment they reach out saying, hey, this thing in my life is important enough to me for me to come maybe out of my comfort zone to your studio and spend an hour or 2 hours with you, and then I'm going to pay to have that memory captured. Like they're entrusting you with these memories, um, and because of that, as a business owner, but especially as a photography business owner, thinking about how you interact with those people, and the connection that you want to have with someone who you're entrusting with giving you this memory. Um, you don't want it to be just some blasty,
Right.
spammy,
Right.
salesy thing. You want to feel like you have a connection with the person who owns the studio, the person who's behind the camera, the person who's doing the editing. You want to feel like you're connected to those people. And again, I believe that text messaging is a really good way to foster those connections. And
So
so, yes, use a 10-digit phone number. Sorry to answer your question.
no,
Use a
you're
10
good.
digit phone number,
But no,
whether it's
you
your own phone or when your own phone is lacking, a tool like what we've built.
okay. So we'll get into the tool that you guys have, but like you led into my next question that I want to talk about is just like, having that authentic voice, having that not salesy sound, having that like, I get it every now and then. It's just like, I thought this was just like an automated thing. I didn't know there was somebody that was actually behind the curtain or whatever. It's like the Oz is magical Oz is behind the curtain. But so what are some of those key things that people when they're texting? Because I've talked to people and we've had conversations about this that no, you're doing it all wrong. You're sending emails in text message form. What are some of those
Yeah.
things that people should be thinking about when they are doing text messaging with potential or current clients? How should they be like interacting with those people?
Yeah. The first thing to keep in mind is, for whatever reason, when we get into our business, like our brain changes and we forget, like, wait, how do, like, oh, I have to treat you like a customer. Like, you don't have to treat your customers like customers. You can treat them like people, and be kind to them. And maybe you are kinder to your customers than you are to regular people. I don't know if that's the case. Yes, treat them like customers. But people want to do business with people. They don't want to do business with organizations. And that's a trend that we're seeing right now. People are craving authentic connections. Um, and some of the mistakes that we see businesses make when they first try to do text messaging. Maybe the first one is that they say, "Oh, my system that I already have does text messaging." It's like, okay, great. Does it do text messaging like you could do text messaging? Like, do you trust your CRM to send messages better than you can as a human being? Um, so that's one of the things that one of the mistakes we see businesses make. Another one, you mentioned this, they just take their emails and they just put them into text messages. It's like, oh, it's just a different way to send out the exact same information. No, it's a different way to send out the same information in a different way.
If you're sending
Or
a
to
if you're sending a 2-paragraph text, you're wrong.
Yes, yes. There's no reason to have hard returns in your text messages and to start your text message. Hey, John, comma, hard return. Here's my message. Here's another hard return. Here's another message. And signed, all the best, comma, Jared. Like, you don't need your text messages to be like that.
Lots of
And
love, period.
yes, yes. LOL, XOXO. Here's my signature. I want to add a signature to every text message. No, you don't need to do that. And maybe those are the obvious ones. Some of the less obvious ones, though, that we see are that businesses just get uncomfortable. Business owners get uncomfortable messaging people. And I'm going to tell you right now, get over that. People would rather text message you. They do not want to talk to you on the phone. And you probably don't want to talk to them on the phone yet either.
Right.
There will be a time later on in your sales process that talking to them on the phone is necessary and important. But at that moment, you guys will already have known each other.
Right.
And then talking on the phone isn't a weird thing.
Right.
And so it's okay that you send text messages to people. And I guess now moving to some of the advice. When you are doing text messaging, again, even if you're not doing it from a tool like Skipio, if you're just doing it from your cell phone, first and foremost, treat them like people. What would you say if you were sending the same message to your best friend? How would you bring this up to your best friend or a spouse? Or keep that in mind as you message. You wouldn't just say, "Hey, half off on this incredible album. Hope that you'll come take advantage of it, John."
Right.
Like, you wouldn't say that. You would probably change that message. Like, again, if I'm messaging my best friend, like, "Hey, I've got this album. I think you would love it. And because I think you would love it, I want to give you 15% off." And when you change that message, it changes the entire context. It changes the feel of the message. And that's going to increase the likelihood that people engage with that message. And that's really what this is all about. Text messaging is a fast way to get people to engage, to take the next step, whether that next step is booking a session, whether that next step is looking at an email that you sent them, whether that next step is rescheduling a session or rescheduling a sales session, or asking questions about the process or giving them information about the process. Whatever that next step is, texting is a really good way to do that. But how you write the message is really, really important.
And I've learned a ton of that with you, because like I know you and I have gone through some of my texting sequences, and you've gone like, "Why did you say it that way?" And you'll like challenge me. I'm like, "Because that's how I thought I should say it." And you're like, "Well, what
Yeah.
if you said it this way?" And it's just like little tweaks of words and stuff in the way
Yeah.
you say it. And then the other thing too is like one of the things that you taught me that was like gold is not everything needs a call of action, like click here or do this or do that. It's maybe you're asking a question and you're inviting a response. You know what I'm saying? So like one of
Yep.
my favorites is like, if you've gone through a 3 text sequence or something like that, and on the third or fourth text, you're going, "Hey, this is John. Hey, this is John again. I just wanted to reach out to you. I haven't heard back from you. Are you getting my texts?" I mean, like,
Yep.
like that's what I would do if I was texting you and you weren't texting me back. I would be like, "Hey,
Like, "Hey, man,
Jared,
is everything
like,
okay?
are you getting
Are
my
you all
texts?
right?"
Is your family okay? I mean, like, what's going on? But I mean, you don't want to like get too personal with them and stuff. I hope everything's okay or whatever, because they're still like, I feel like there's a line there you got to be
There
careful with.
is a line.
Yeah, but I mean, but having that question of like, "Hey, I've texted you a couple of times and I heard from you. I mean, like, are you still interested?" Or whatever that question might be. It does invite a response, and then they'll come back and they'll tell you to screw off, or they'll tell you to like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I just haven't had a chance to text you back. I'm sorry," or whatever. But even the screw off text, it's like, I'm glad I got that text because now I know to screw off. I mean,
Yeah, now I
I'm
don't
not
need to
waste,
worry about it.
I'm not going to waste my time anymore with you. But it's just those subtle things that I've learned with you when it comes to those, and it is being real. Like I told you the story. I was on a Zoom with somebody, and they were like, "Oh, I started using a texting service," and they went through the text, and I'm like, "You just regurgitated your emails that you're sending to people. Stop doing that." Like nobody
Yep.
wants to read that. And when you get it, who gets a text that's an email, and then when you get it, you're like, oh,
It's
wait, what the
true.
hell? Like, you're not going to read that.
Yeah. And brevity is, I mean, it's the spice of life. Like a little bit goes a long way in text messaging. Um, and there's some utility to it as well, because on our devices here, we get a preview of messages. And so if your message is short enough to fit in the entire preview, they see it on their home screen, the entire message.
Before they even pick
Um,
up their phone.
exactly. Before they even go in and see it, and they're already reading it. And it just creates confidence that, people are actually seeing your messages. Now, I'm not here to bash on email. I think there is still, um, email is still a really good way to
No, I
reach out
agree. Like
for a lot of
you
things.
have to have both. You
You
like,
got
in
to
my
have
opinion,
both.
you have to have both. You can't do one or the other. You can't go all in text messaging. We still do both. When we're marketing to people, we're sending text and email from both different
Yep.
channels. You and I have had this conversation before. Email for me is long-term client nurturing for future stuff.
Yep.
Texting is the short term and communication with clients that are actually clients that are coming in the door and all that kind of stuff. So there's a
Yep.
place for both, right? But
Yep.
affordability wise, like texting becomes a difficult thing to do the long term stuff once you start building up a
Yep.
clientele, because
Because you're not going
all
to message
yeah.
5,000
Yeah, full
clients
disclosure, you're
in
paying
one
for
text.
text, you're not paying, it's not like a blanket, hey,
Yep.
it's $100 and you can text all you want, I mean, and that's a great way to get blocked too, by the way. But anyway, but that's a
Yeah,
whole
that's a
different
different
topic for a
call.
different day. So yeah, the other thing that you talked to me about, like early on when you and I had first started having conversations, is the importance of,
Yeah.
and it's just so stupid and it sounds so stupid, but it's so simple and it's so true, the importance of using emojis within your text. Talk to us a little bit about like I mean, the one I remember specifically is when I was talking about pricing. You go say, "Hey, here's something about pricing, smiley face or whatever," and I was like, "Why would I put a smiley face there?" I'm kind of like I'm trying not to scare them off. Why would I use a smiley face when it's talking about pricing or something else that's using an emoji?
Yeah. So emojis, um, they're almost like modern day hieroglyphics. But what's great about emojis that's different than words themselves is they don't just convey an image; they often come with an emotion. And that's what, if you open up your phone and you look at the emoji library, a lot of those emojis are meant to convey emotion. Um, and it's maybe one of the complaints that people have is like, oh, someone texts me, and if they just do a period, like, oh, that they must be mad at me if they use a period instead of an exclamation point. Or uh, you can help convey emotion through your text messages by using emojis, right? And I served a mission for our church in Japan. The word emoji is Japanese, and the emo is emotion, right? It means a motion picture emoji. And so using emojis in your messages to help convey emotion at points where you might need, like, yeah, we're talking about this album is going to cost you $1,600, and then doing a smiley face or doing a thumbs up or doing a not that we're trying to soften a blow or anything, but we want, like, if we were talking about in person, we could say something like, "Yeah, it's only $1,600 for you to get this beautiful album,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see my face, you can see my smile, you can
Mm-hmm.
see." That doesn't always come across with just words. We're not good enough with words to express all of those emotions, but using a picture and an emoji specifically can help with that. And that's why I recommend using emojis. Now, if you're someone who never ever uses emojis, um, maybe this is a call for you to change. Um, but don't just start throwing them in everywhere. You don't want them to be in every message. You want them to be strategically used. Like, oh, hey, I got that. I definitely love using the thumbs up emoji. If you're ever texting me, there's a good chance like every third message is going to have a thumbs up. Like, I like to use it
The other thing you like to do
instead of
is
punctuation.
emoji, like the message itself.
Yep. Yep. So that's in messaging, not text messaging, but yeah,
Yeah,
with
no,
like
I get it on
iMessage and
iMessage and stuff. Yeah.
to react to a message.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
react to a lot of messages because, again, I like to use that as a way of like, hey, I've seen your message. Um, I like that we're having this dialogue. I'm trying to move this forward, and that's what you're trying to do as a business owner, right? You're working with these people to move them forward. And like you mentioned, John, someone might say, "Hey, screw off." Like, okay, great. I'm glad you told me that. I don't need to spend my time worrying about you, thinking about you. Whereas if someone never responds, like, man, I have these 200 leads that I've had over the last 6 weeks that have never responded to me. Like, what do I keep like? What should I do? Should I keep messaging them? And then it's all this. No, you want to simplify. You have enough to worry about as a business owner. Like, let's be honest. From one business owner to another, you've got enough to worry
All
about.
right.
And so take as much of that off your plate. If someone says no, that's great. Like, look at that as, okay, good. This is not the type of person that I'm trying to go after, and get people to some sort of answer quickly, so that you can get it out of your mind, you can get it out of your system, and you can just keep moving forward with the people that are there. Yeah. So emojis, yeah, I like using emojis. Highly recommend using emojis. And there's another part of this that we haven't talked about. I don't know if we will talk about it, so I want to make sure that we talk about it. Is responding quickly.
Hmm.
Um, this idea of text messaging, um, and I don't know if we were ever just. I know we weren't explicitly taught this. It's just become a social contract that we have. When someone sends you a text message, they expect a response.
Hmm.
And that's why we even have these conversations of like, hey, are you getting my messages? When people ask that question, they're proving that they believe that their messages were delivered, that they were seen, that they were read. And there's something wrong, Oh, why didn't you respond? Because, oh, something must have been wrong for you not to respond to my message. That does not happen with email. That does not happen with phone calls. That does not happen with voicemails. That does not happen with posts on social media. Like, very rarely do you hear someone say, "Oh, hey, did you listen to my voicemail?" And if they are saying that, guess what? They're probably texting it. Like, "Hey, I called you and left you a message. Let me know if you
Right.
have any questions."
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so, we are like that as human beings. Your customers, your future customers, your potential customers are like that also. And so,
So
responding to them when they text you back builds on this social contract that we have. And then guess what? You can then expect them to respond when you text them back.
right. Well, and it's one of my favorite things. You saw like me saying this a lot when we were in we Jared and I went to WPPI together, and we met with
Whoop,
a lot
whoop.
of different people. It was a lot of fun and got to talk about texting with a lot of people we ran into. But one of the things that I love about their platform, Skipio, and we can talk a little bit more about that kind of stuff here in a few, but is you have canned text that are already built into, and I can build out like canned text. So like when you're having those
Yep.
quick responses, I can go to those canned texts right away and I don't have to type it out 10 different times. It's just like one of my favorite is when they're telling you to screw off. They don't say, very rarely do I get somebody that texts me and tells me to screw up. It's usually like, I'm not really interested. This
Yeah. Or I
isn't
can't
this.
afford this,
I can't
or
afford
not what
this.
I
This
thought
is
it
it's
was.
not the right time, or thanks for considering me, or blah 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 blah. So my typical response to that is not a problem. Thanks so much for considering us. We would love to have you in the studio in the future if something changes. And that's my canned
Yep.
text, smiley face. So,
Yep.
but that's my canned text, and I say it all the time. And so instead of typing that out, if I have 100 leads and I have to type that out 20 times in a day, I just go to the canned responses and then do it, and it's just like it takes me no time at all. So the like not just showing like why texting is important, but having a platform that works for you that can facilitate like you said, I don't have time to spend hours and hours and hours behind a phone or whatever sending texts. What is it going to make my life easy? When I first started doing
Yep.
texting, I used Google Voice, and I had to sit behind a computer and answer. I mean, I like if I wanted to do automations in quotes, I had to like like day one, sit behind the computer and send all these texts, like 50 different people. Day two, send a text to 50 different people. Day three, send, but here's the other side of it too. What most people that don't, that if you're doing bulk stuff, and you can speak to this a little bit, if you're behind Google Voice or something like that, doing that kind of thing, that's a great way for you to get blocked. Not just from
Yes.
the person, but from the carrier. And what ends up happening is if you send a link and you send it too many times through like something like Google Voice, then it's going to stop sending that link. And then you're going to get people going, I got your text message, but there was no link that, and it says, click the link to find out more information, but there was no link. Why is it that Google Voice does something like that where Skipio does not?
Yeah. That's probably a longer discussion than we have time for, to be
No,
very
you're cool.
honest.
But I mean,
The,
if you could
the
get kind of
short
give like the
version,
skinny of it, like
yeah.
why would
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no,
Yeah, the
why
short
what's the
version,
benefit of that, versus like doing like a Google Voice where, hey, it's like it's $5 a month or something like that, but like I get to a point where it's like, oh, nobody's getting my text anymore, or getting the information.
yep. So in the past, messaging, it was kind of like the Wild West. You kind of do whatever you wanted and kind of do it however you wanted, especially in the earlier days of businesses using text messaging. We're only talking about something that's been around for 16, 18 years. Businesses haven't really used text messaging for that long. Now, I know that technology changes really quickly, especially in today's day and age with AI, and it seems like technology is just rapidly advancing. And that is true. Technology is. There's incredible technology that's out there. But businesses can only rapidly evolve as fast as humans can evolve. And businesses and humans can only evolve as fast as their customers are willing to evolve. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to talk with customers.
Hmm.
And if a customer isn't interested in doing a virtual reality sales session with you to see what their prints look like on their wall, which would be amazing, if the customer's not going to do that, or the customer doesn't have the tools to be able to do that, who cares about that technology? Like, who cares if that's a possibility?
Mhm.
Because it doesn't make you any more sales. And so businesses, again, they haven't been using text messaging for that long because the consumers, again, they liked email. They liked the comfort of email. They liked being able to answer their phone. We had home phones at the time. How many people on this, like, you don't even have a home phone anymore. You run your life through
Mhm.
this thing, this
Mhm.
cell phone. Um, and so back in kind of the earlier days of this, it was really easy to just get a phone number and start text messaging. And for a company like Google, they wanted to provide that as a service, and I'm grateful. They provide so many good services. But as it's gone on, and as people have used it the wrong way, the carriers have had to step in and say, wait a second, like, we want to protect our customers. So, I have Verizon. Verizon wants to protect me from getting things that I don't want to get and seeing things that I don't want to see. And they've made it a lot more difficult now
Mhm.
for businesses to. There's a process that you have to go through now to get your business registered with the
Right.
carriers,
Right.
um, and we are experts in this process. We have It's been a fun, I'll say fun, but when I say fun, I mean frustrating journey to become experts in this. Um, but getting your business registered with the carriers and telling them the type of messaging that you're going to do increases your deliverability. It increases the speed at which your messages deliver. And it's a safety for you and for the carrier's customers, the people you'll be messaging. For the carriers to know, like, who you are and what you're going to be saying. Um, before we jumped on here, John and I talked about there's some people on here who may not know yet what they don't know, and I just want to say a few things that exist out there that you may not be aware of when it comes to text messaging. Um, you can schedule text messages. You can write messages today that don't send today, that they can send in the future. That exists. And that exists inside of Skipio. It just so happens that everything I say also exists in Skipio. But I just want you to know this is out there for you, right? So if you're someone who is running, maybe your photography business is something you're doing on the side right now, you can write messages at 10, 11, 12 at night and have them deliver the next
Hey,
day.
even if you're running it full time, man, like me,
Right?
I'm using that.
Yeah, scheduling messages. John mentioned one called the message library. You shouldn't have to write the same message over and over and over and over and over. The ability to create messages and store them somewhere that you can get to them quickly and respond quickly, that exists. The ability to build text messaging sequences that only deliver if people don't respond, that exists. The ability to connect your lead forms to an automated message, or to connect your scheduling system to an automated message. The ability to have your own reminder messages go out rather than the calendaring system that you're using, their messages that are defaulted to go out 48 hours and 24 hours, and that exists. The ability to personalize those messages. And then the ability to have two phone numbers on your one device also exists.
Right.
So you don't have to buy two phones now. And I just want people to know that those things are out there. And you may not understand why I would say those things, but hopefully you're looking at this saying, wow, I am someone who wants to send messages, and I am someone who's been using my phone, and it's becoming overwhelming because I have my personal life and my business life now overlapped
Mm.
inside of my phone. Or man, I'm really good at sending that first message out to people, but if they don't respond, like, I don't get back to them.
Right.
And so
Or
this
how do you
ability
know
for
that, like, I mean, how do you know
how do you
that they
even
did
know?
respond and stuff? So it's like, I mean, we have it set up in ours and through Skipio where it's like automated that if they book a session, then we have it set up that like then they come out of the texting sequence and they don't receive any more texts. Where like, if you have 50 people in a thing and you're like, okay, I'm gonna wait, which 50 people, like, and we booked 4 sessions yesterday. What are those 4 people? And you're like trying to
Yes.
do it, and it's like taking you an hour just to figure that out, and then have to remake the spreadsheet or whatever you're doing to send it. I mean, it's a headache. And
Yep.
Scipio just revolutionized my world when it came to that kind of thing because like once they booked a session, now they're in a new now they're a new client and they're going to get a whole different set of text messages. And so they've
Yes.
moved from one sequence to another sequence, and it was just a matter of them booking the session and it automatically did it for me, so I didn't even have to go in there and make a
Yes.
change. And so it's amazing how awesome you can do those kind of things. But when I was using something like Google Voice or my own cell phone, I didn't have that ability. And when I first
Yep.
started, you know my story. When I first started this business, I was working full time and working full time in my business. And while I was working full time, if I would have had Scipio, it would have made my life so much easier because I was trying to send text messages and breaks and like whatever, like and all that kind of stuff where I could do automated sequences. I mean, I have a sequence of stuff that I do that I start on Monday and it goes till Friday. If they book a session, then they get another thing the day after, and it just goes on and on and on depending on where they are in the flow. If they don't book a session right away, they get another thing, and I put them in another workflow that you taught me 30 days later. Hey, let's follow up with them again, and all that kind of stuff. But you can do that, like you're saying, with something like a Scipio, where you can actually build out this stuff and make it super easy for yourself to manage your business.
Yep. And again, we love helping businesses. Like, we're so passionate about it. It's so fun. Like, that's one of my favorite things that I get to do in my job is talk to business owners and learn about the things that they're trying to accomplish. Um, and then to sit down and say, hey, yeah, this is if we implement something like this, it's going to take off all of this stress that you're currently carrying. Because as a business owner, you carry a lot of stress.
Right.
You
Yep.
carry payroll stress, you carry financial stress, you carry um, just like not getting burned out stress. Like, I'm paying for this all this marketing money, and like, what should I do? And like, am I actually getting the most out of this stuff? Like, you already carry around so much. We want to help take some of that off of your plate, um, so that you can focus on the fun parts of running a
Right,
business.
right. So like, I'm a photographer, and everybody that's
Yeah,
listening to this, or most people that are going to be listening to this, are photographers.
yeah, yeah.
And I've had people ask me this, and I've had people suggest this to me, but I want to
Yeah.
ask, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you. Um, every time I
Hopefully I
send a
know the
text,
answer.
every time I send a text, should I send a photo so they can see examples of my work?
Um, no, you should not. Um, it's okay to do that sometimes. Sometimes it's okay. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is like it's going to show up on a screen this big. First of all, like they'll have to zoom in to see your work. As photographers, um, I hope that you guys realize, really all photographers, I hope that you realize your business is not just there's multiple parts of your business, and again, you probably know this. So I'm definitely preaching to the choir here, but you provide an incredible service to people, and you provide incredible products to people. Those have to be separate in your brain as a photographer. You cannot group them together. And so even something like, oh yeah, send me examples of your work. Well, does that mean send you examples of my product that you're going to hang up on your wall? Or is that like the equipment that I use or the experience that you feel when you come into my studio? Um, and I know maybe that's not exactly what you were asking.
No, I get what you know. You're right. I mean, it's just I think sometimes where I was going with that question is more of like I think there's a misnomer out there that I was trying to kind of, and you've answered the question of just like, I got to get my work in front of their face so they can see what I do because that's what's going to get them to come into the studio. And the truth
No,
of the matter
you
is,
are going to get them
yes, it's the
into the studio.
relationship, it's the
It's
conversation, it's everything else that goes with that.
yes,
It's not the photos. They
yes,
responded to an ad or something that became a lead, and you hopefully had a photo in that ad that they like
yep,
actually saw at least a piece of your work, and that's what
yeah,
got them to respond. You don't need to keep throwing photos at them because it's like going to your website, going to somebody's website, and it's a pet peeve of mine, going to a photographer's website, and I go to the homepage and it's just photo, 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 no call to action, no call to action, photo, 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 no call to action, no call to action. Like, how are they supposed to do anything with you? But I got to show them my photos. It's like, but they can't contact you because you never told them how to contact you. You're just showing a bunch of pretty
yes.
photos.
Honestly, people nine out of 10 people, they just immediately believe that you take good photos because you're a professional photographer. I like just again, this is coming from someone who's not a professional photographer. I was at WPPI, and I know there were a lot of like first timers there, and again, I run a software company. You guys, this is not a I'm at WPPI, and every person I saw that said they were a photographer, I just assumed that they could take incredible pictures. Now you may be thinking, well, no, that's not true. Not every photographer does. Yeah, you're probably right. Especially you guys know what good pictures look like. But as a consumer, as someone like I just assume that if someone's a professional photographer, they know something about taking pictures that I do not know. And I don't really need to see their work. At some point, yes, I'm going to need to see their work. At some point, I'm going to need to be able to see, like, oh, yeah, like, are they going to be able to help me position myself properly to take this picture? But even that's not the picture itself, right? And so you do not need to send photos of your work all of the time in your messaging. And where I think this comes back to, um, again, is not that you're feigning confidence, not that you are worried about imposter syndrome. That's a real thing, especially as a business owner. We could do a whole podcast just on that of like overcoming, like a whole episode just on that of overcoming like the fears that just naturally come up being a business owner. Um, but with text messaging, what you're trying to do is you're trying to let people get to know you. You are going to be the thing that sets you apart from the other photographers that they could be reaching out to. Um, the type of person that you are, the type of experience that you create in your studio. Maybe you don't have a studio, the type of experience you create for them when you're out on location shooting. Um, like you're the difference. Like you are the difference maker. It's not going to be, they don't care what lens you shoot on. They don't care what machine you have. They don't care who you edit your photos through or what software tools you use. they care about you, and they care that you care about them, and they want to know that, they want to feel that. And that's what's going to set you apart. And that's not just photographers, by the way. You're not alone in this. It's any small local business who's trying to make an impact in their own community. Like, you are the catalyst to that. And what we're trying to do at Skipio is we're trying to help people see that, um, and use text messaging to drive that point home.
Right.
And so we want you to be the one getting the message. We want you to be the one responding to those messages. We want you to be the one writing those messages. And we'll help you write those messages. But
Right.
like, even as I sat down with John, it was like, hey, John, here's what I recommend. What would you say? Like, how
Right.
would you say this differently? I don't speak Texan. Like, I don't know the words. I don't say the y'alls,
I
right?
don't speak Texan either. I
Yeah,
just live here.
right. But you know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
No, I
anyway,
mean
yes, you,
it's all like, I mean, I totally get what you're saying, and you know, the bottom line is just, like, being authentic and being who you are. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned from you, and I've learned by just doing it and then having to put myself out there and get uncomfortable in this, because there's a lot of photographers out there that believe that you have to make that phone call and you have to connect with them on the phone and talk to them and all that stuff. But it's like you're saying, and yes, there's always going to be a percentage of people that, yes, they want to have a phone call and they want to talk on the phone. And the great thing about something like Skipio or texting and stuff, like, you still have that option. You know, you can start it
absolutely.
with a text and it's just like, hey, I get it. I got it today. I got somebody that said, hey, I want to make sure that this is real. Can somebody please call me? You know, and so
Yep.
like, we pick up the phone number is a 10-digit number and I can use it to make a phone call. And so I can call that number.
Yep.
Right. But but the majority of people, like you say, we're on the bit go. We're busy, busy people. We got enough going on in our lives. It's easier for me to send a text to somebody and then them respond to the text than it is for me to try and find them on a phone, because then they can respond when they
For
want to,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And I can respond when I want to respond. Like, we had this happen. I was saying this when we were in Vegas at WPBI. It's like, I got a text from somebody at 10:30 at night saying, I'm so sorry I'm texting you so late, but I have a question and blah blah blah. But they're texting me at 10:30 at night, right? And I, like, we were sitting there chatting or doing something, and I texted the response and scheduled it to go out the next morning, you know, because I was like, I'm not going to respond at 10:30 at night, because, like, I don't want them to think that I'm just at their beck and call at
Just,
any hour of the day, because then it
yeah.
seems kind of fake. But then, because, and they even apologized. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm texting so, but I scheduled it at like 9:30 in the morning the next day that I responded to their text. The other side of it too is, I was able to, I'm able to send a link. Like, if somebody says, I would love to book a session, I can go, great, here's a link that you can book a session, pay your deposit, blah, blah, blah. And I can get at
Yep.
10:30 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night, somebody booking a session, right? Like, maybe they work the day shift or the night shift,
Yeah.
or whatever, and they can't talk during the day. You know, I mean, like, you're now fitting into whenever they can respond to you on their time,
Yep.
you know? So,
Yep. And that's where, again, not just using text messaging, but having good sales processes. And at the heart of your sales process is, what type of experience do I want to create? Do I want to allow these customers to have? Again, you want them to feel connected to you, and one of the ways that you do that is by um, going to where people are and allowing them to message you and allowing them to reach out to you. And then I love that you set the boundaries. You responded to that message. And when I say responded, you scheduled your response to that message to go out the next morning. So it was off your plate, but it was also, hey, I'll message you back. If you text me at 10 at night, great. You're definitely going to get a message the next morning. So,
no,
um,
it's a powerful tool. I mean, and it's just like, I hope anybody that's listening to this today, it's not just about Scipio. And one of the things I love about Jared, and he will say, and like, because I've asked him about other companies that do this kind of stuff, and he always challenges me and says, go and try them out. I'm not like, we're still gonna be friends. I'm like, it's cool, man. But so it's not about like selling Scipio, even though I stand behind Scipio. I think it's amazing. I've used a couple of different texting services. Nothing compares to what you guys do. In
thank
my
you.
mind, I know there's other things out there. I know that there's other ways to do what I'm doing, but you make it user friendly. You make it super simple to do. The customer support. I mean, you know, full transparency. I had a time where like that UL or whatever stuff hit me, and I got blocked by a carrier, and you guys fixed it for me. You went to bat for me, and you got it working, and I and got it working again. But that's where you're the advocate and the middleman for me to help me when things aren't going well. Where if I was trying to use Verizon or Google Voice or something like that, I'm not going to get that kind of
Yeah.
help to get things back to where I want it to be, to be able to communicate to my clients the way that I want to communicate. And we send, I mean, shoot, I don't know. I send at one point I was sending like 10 or 5,000, 10,000. I don't know. Oh, here, I can go and look right now how many I've done this month. I mean, just this month alone, I've sent 3,600 texts, you know, I mean, and so if you're doing that on a regular phone, you're probably going to run into some issues, right? Where if you're using a service
Yeah.
like
Or
Skipio,
you're gonna have thumb
you're gonna have
soreness.
carpal tunnel in your thumbs. So the
Luckily,
other
you don't
side of
use your.
yeah.
I was gonna
So
say,
the other
luckily, you
side
don't
of
use
it
your thumb that
too,
much in
yeah,
photography, but you do.
yeah, yeah. The other side of it too that I would say, and this is going to be a little plug for you guys, is that Skipio doesn't just work on a phone; it works on a computer. So I can like literally sit behind a computer, log into my Skipio, and do everything that I'm doing on my phone from my computer. And I don't know about
Yeah.
anybody else out there. I would much rather type my responses on a keyboard than do it with my thumbs. But I have that option to do it with my thumbs when I need to, when I'm on the go. So um, all that to be said, I hope you guys got a lot out of like why the importance of texting is so important for your business. And if you're not doing texting, if you're not using a texting service, you truly, truly should consider it. It has changed. I mean, Jared knows because he and I have been talking about it for a long time, and we talk about it a lot. It has changed my business, and I'm always looking for ways to improve, and I'm always looking for ways to communicate and educate my clients through texting that help them not waste my time and not waste their time, and give them the best experience and value that we can possibly give them. And so, like, your platform has allowed me to do that, and I thank you. Bravo
Yeah.
to you.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
so,
and I guess what I would want everyone to know here is, um, please do start using text messaging. Whether you use our tool or another tool, you should use text messaging. People want to be communicated with over text, and you may be sitting there thinking like, I don't really want to be communicated with over text. You may want to.
yeah.
There are certain things that you definitely want to. Um,
And you got to
the other
think too,
part,
and the other side of it too is what we have to, and this is a mindset thing. We talked a lot of, I talk a lot about mindset with stuff. Just because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean it's not working for the rest of your clients. You know, you got to think,
yep,
you know, just I don't I like talking on the phone. Okay, that's great, but I guarantee you majority of your clients don't. You know what I'm saying?
yep,
And so and there's if there's client like we said earlier, if there's clients that want to talk to you on the phone, they still have that option. Just because you go to text doesn't mean you don't have to talk to them on the phone, you know?
yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is that when you work with Scipio specifically, again, we care about small businesses. We want to help these. We want to help businesses people who are passionate and they've started a business because they're passionate. And like John mentioned, he's talking a lot about the app, and there's a lot of good things in the app. The app is great, but the other thing that's great is I have great people that work here,
hmm.
and we're willing to
They do.
spend
I
time
spent
and
I
we're
spent a whole few days with them, like three of them, Jared and two of the other guys, and they're awesome people, awesome
yep.
human beings, and very, 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 very smart about what they're doing when it comes to this text messaging stuff. And funny story, real quick, I they're always open to ideas. I was sitting there
Yep.
talking to them, and I said, "Hey guys, I got an idea for you. I love the app. It's so great. It's so awesome. But when I have somebody that I need to take out of out of a drip campaign, which is an automated campaign. You guys need a button where I just click it and it takes them out of the campaign. And Jared looks over at I think it was Jordan, and he said, right, that, and Jordan's texting it on his phone or whatever, like in a note or whatever. Okay, feature request, but they are listening. They are going, hey, like, I want the feedback of my clients of what is going to make our product better. We talked about AI, I don't want to get too deep into this. Like, how can AI, and when I first talked to you about AI, you were like, that's a dangerous road to get down. But you thought I was talking like generating AI responses that are, like, if they say this, write a new response that says this. I wasn't talking that. I was talking, if they say this, here are traditionally the responses that would probably go with this. Which one do you want to choose? And then it gives me an option, and I click it and then go with those generated automatic texts. And so you guys really do listen to your clients. You listen to,
Thank you.
I loved watching you at WPPI listen and talking to other people, because you're really good at just hearing what people want and what people need in their business. And so I can attest that. And they are very committed to working with photographers. So if you're a photographer, you wouldn't be here today. You went to WPPI to meet a bunch of photographers, and
Yep.
see what that world was like. And so you're committed to what we do, and you're not just doing photography. You're doing all different kinds of brands and businesses that are out there. And so I appreciate
Yep.
the time and the commitment that you give, not just to my business, but the industry as a whole.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's fun. It's fun we felt welcomed there. So it was cool.
Cool. Well, hey, Jared, it has been awesome, and it's always a pleasure. You and I could talk for hours about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. No one wants to listen to us for hours.
So if somebody's interested in doing Skipio, I'm assuming, like, where do they go?
Yeah. Skipio.com, Skipio.com. We actually have a landing page specifically for photographers, which I will send to John so you can put it on the Facebook page. And but yeah, go there. We've got everything that you would need there to get started. When you sign up, you'll sign up for the plan that you feel like is the best fit for you, how many messages you're planning on sending a month. And then the first step after that is our team working with you to get you registered properly with the carriers. We want you to be able to send messages as quickly as possible. And until that happens, of course, you can't send any messages until you've talked with our team, and then we help you get verified. Again, assuming you're not doing anything crazy or sending anything that the carriers don't want sent, which 98% of photographers are not, or they're sending the right types of messages. But then we sit down with you and say, okay, where are you using messaging? Oh, you're not using it at all, or you are using it? Great. Let's augment your current processes with text messaging, or let's take the messaging that you're already doing and let's make it better. We can help you write messages. We can help you with processes. We have an automation team here that can help you automate your messages. So, like, hey, if maybe you're using I know John uses Dubsado, but when a contact hits a certain place in your funnel, you want to send them a message. Great, we can automate that with you.
Yeah,
We just want to help. We're just
no,
here to help.
it's great to, you guys do awesome stuff. I mean, and the other thing too, I would say, is as you're starting to use Scipio, the same thing that I did, and you'd probably give the same kind of advice. Scipio is a tiered plan, so it's like you can
Yep.
start at the
Start low.
bottom tier and test it out and try it out, and then grow as you grow the number of text messages and the number of people that you have on your text message list and everything. You don't have to go to the highest plan. You can grow as it grows with you. So,
Yep.
and
Yep.
everything. So, anyway, so Jared, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me the time, and I hope everybody got a lot out of this today. There was some people coming in and out of the live, but we don't have any questions. I think you've answered a bunch
Okay.
of questions, but if you have any questions, feel free to poke them in here, and I will definitely reach out to Jared and see if he'll answer those, and I'm sure he would. And
Happily.
everything. So,
Happily.
but thanks again, Jared. I appreciate you being
Yep.
on
Thank
here
you
today
guys.
and giving me the time. Talk to you later, buddy.
Yep. See you, John.